All right. Well, welcome everybody to the Dirty Dads podcast. Myself is Joe Dirte, and then we have Hammer Joe, or Joe Hammer, as it is. And today we're going to go over this topic of vaccines and kind of what's going on, craziness in the world, and vaccines and just general thoughts across the board. So Joe and I a little bit differ here from Hammer or Dirty here is that I am not vaccinated and he is vaccinated. And I kind of want to open the floor up to Joe here so he can tell the reason why he got vaccinated and kind of just his thoughts on that aspect to start with. So without further ado, Joe, head into it. Why'd you get vaccinated, brother?
Hey, what's up, everybody? Why did I get vaccinated? First off, because my mother asked me to. So, you get when mama asks you to do something, you got to do it, right?
Yeah, I heard that.
Most off because we were both in the Army for a long time, right? So I figure anything the Army put in my body that probably should have killed me, such as like an anthrax vaccine, is probably a lot harsher than anything that they made up to fight a virus, right?
Okay.
That's a big major reason. Really, it was because I'm like, hey, I got to protect my mom. She's very vulnerable, has COPD. She's older. She's got problems with her breathing. So if she got a COVID-19, it could potentially kill her. Very, very bad way to go. She'd definitely get the pneumonia from it. For me, I had COVID twice before I got the vaccine. So I've already had it twice.
Really?
I know for a fact I've had COVID twice. And so now, now looking at it in 2020 hindsight, I guess a reasoning for getting it could be that I now I have copious amounts of antibodies to it, and this Delta variant thing probably can't get me either. So, but overall, and I know a lot of veterans that are like, hey, why did you get that? Or friends that are very right leaning, and yes, they're still my friends because I'm kind of more down the center. They're like, well, why are you putting that poison in your body? I'm like, well, I've had it since April. It's now almost August. So what is that, 4 months? And I feel fine, and I haven't contracted COVID again. Not to say that anybody else who doesn't want to get it, I'm not telling you you're wrong. I would never proponent that to anybody saying, oh, well, your reasons for not getting it are invalid. You have to protect me. I don't need anybody else to protect me. I'm protecting me. I'm doing what I feel is right for me. And those are the decisions I made by getting it.
Absolutely. Now, a little caveat to that because it is a little weird. Which version of it did you get, and did you have any kind of symptoms or anything associated with when you got the vaccine? I think would be the big question.
So, well, I can speak to two. So I got the Pfizer. I got the Pfizer 2-dose at the VA. It was real simple. I'll explain the process a little bit. You kind of walk up, you have to fill out a questionnaire if you're feeling any symptoms of COVID, blah, 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 and then you go in and they take your paperwork, they set you up, and bang, they put it in your arm, you're done. You walk out and you go out and you go to a waiting room. You have to wait 15 minutes to make sure you don't have an adverse reaction to it, and then you go home. And then 21 days later, because I got the Pfizer, I had to go back in and do it again. My mother got the Moderna. She had to wait 28 days. She went to they have a big processing center where they do it here at Foxborough. She went in, she got hers, same exact process as the Pfizer. I know somebody who got the Johnson & Johnson. I would not recommend it. I know two people personally who have got major blood clots from the Johnson & Johnson and have died from those blood clots.
Oh, wow.
Now, the reactions that I got. So when I had COVID the first time, I got really, really sick, right?
Yeah.
I was coughing. They tested me negative for the flu twice. I was sick for about 6 weeks, had hyperinflated pneumonia, was coughing up blood, had really bad problems, but I lived. I was okay. Didn't have to go on a ventilator, didn't have to go to the hospital. Second time I got it, I just had a mild fever and a headache, and I didn't really feel that shitty. I was okay after a couple days. After the vaccine, I had mild headache, a little bit of inflammation, light fever, probably like a 98.9 to a 99.1 tops. And I was a little tired for like 24 hours, and I felt great. I felt great for about a week. I haven't noticed any upper respiratory, any type of issues after that. My mother with the Moderna, she didn't have any type of reaction at all. She was perfectly fine. So,
nice.
So they seem to be okay for you from personal experience. Now, I know everybody's body's different, everybody reacts are different, but for myself and from what I know of my mother's reaction, the Moderna and Pfizer seem to be the most friendly towards the human body.
Okay. All right. Now this would be the next big question, and I think it's kind of, we're seeing this around the world, and we're kind of, which we'll get into a little bit later, but we're starting to see people, you're either the right or the left or anti-vax or whatever. There's a big movement against it, and there's a big movement for it. But what we're seeing now is, I think, how do you feel about people that haven't got it?
Me personally, I could care less. It's your job. It's your, same thing as, and I hate to go into the subject. It's a little off topic, but the same thing as, the pro-choice people cry, my body, my choice, right? Well, it's my life. It's my choice. It's your life. It's your choice. So I believe everybody, especially in the United States of America where we live, you're free to make your own choices. So if you get it, I don't care. If you don't get it, I don't care. If you're neither for or against and you just want to go live in a house in the woods, I don't care. So whatever choice you make as per the vaccine is your choice. And I respect that as your choice. It's not going to make me think any less or more of you, because it's not your job to get it for me. It's your job to get it for whatever reasons you get it for, or vice versa, not get it for whatever reasons you don't get it for.
Really? Okay. Yeah. No, I kind of agree with you. I'm going to be totally honest. Just on that view, it just, it's a personal choice thing. And I think people are just making such a big deal about it. Talking about getting other people sick and the variants and all this other craziness going on. Reality is that it is a choice, and it's up to the individual. Now, how do you feel about masks? Obviously a lot of mask mandates are gone, but people are talking about bringing them back and all this craziness. I mean, what do you feel about it?
I think masks were dumb to begin with, because I don't think they stop anything from entering your body. There's, no matter what they say, it even says it on the box. I know a lot of nurses, and they get the boxes of masks. It says in big writing, does not protect against COVID-19, right on the box when they get them.
Yeah.
Even the surgical masks. So, the 6 feet thing I understood, because most people snot if they sneeze, or if they breathe isn't going to go 6 feet to another human being, right? It's generally not going to make it that far. But the masks, I saw it as a way to, in my opinion, to control a population and make them do what you want, as like a test run. I kind of see it as a test run from my side. Whether that's conspiracy or not, that's my opinion, right? Now, my biggest problem with masks isn't, if you wear a mask in Walmart because you're worried you're going to get COVID or you're not vaccinated yet, good for you. That's your life. You decide. You don't have the right to tell me to put a mask on. You don't have a right to be Karen off the block and walk up to me and be like, you're not wearing a mask, you're an evil person. No, that's my choice. If I get sick and I die because I made a choice, that's my choice, right? The biggest pet peeve I have with masks is people driving in their car alone with a mask on.
I've seen that a lot.
Look, with the windows up and the AC on, I'm like, dude, your cabin air filter, because I'm a mechanic by trade, people, your cabin air filter is taking any particulates that are coming out from outside your car into your car and filtering them through a 3-filter phase system. You're probably not getting any COVID from the open air. So let's stop driving around like weirdos with our masks on in our car by ourselves.
I asked somebody that same question too, and they said it's just a convenience thing. From what I got, like it's easier just to leave it on than it is to take it off and put it back on.
I mean, okay.
Yeah, I know, but we all know people are lazy. It is what it is.
Or they hanging from the mirror like, girls' panties from last night. Well, it's their masks from last night,
Stop. Yeah,
I don't know. Like I just don't want to get the biggest issue with masks I see. And this is a real thing. So people don't go home and, like, a lot of people have cloth masks. I have cloth masks, right? Yeah. And they don't at least go home and hand wash them. So you get bacteria from you breathing on the inside of your mask, and you keep breathing that in and day out, and you get bacterial issues and infections in your lungs. And this is a medical proven thing. So people aren't responsible enough to change their mask or go wash their mask. A lot of times I see.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So sometimes you're causing more harm than you are good.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with you. It brings up a good point, and it's kind of weird. I'm going to be honest with you. You know, I've spoken to quite a few people about this subject, and you being vaccinated and still being very open to other people's choices is kind of like a rare thing, you know, that I see anyway. Because a lot of people that do get vaccinated, you know, you got to post it on Facebook, you got to Twitter it, you got to do all these different things to let the world know you're better than somebody else, you know, or you're doing your fair share to the world. But being as open-minded, you know, it's kind of refreshing to talk to somebody that is very open-minded about it. Which kind of brings me into this next topic here. We're talking like some serious crackdown in France. We got police officers marching. I mean, there was 100,000 people last Saturday that just marched on all these different towns and cities and stuff like that, because of these fines that they're putting out for, you know, unvaccinated people. It's kind of alienating people that choose not to get vaccinated. And what are your thoughts on that? I don't know if you read the article or, you know, see anything about it or how you feel.
Well, I did read some articles on it. I did watch that there's something like a couple 100,000 people marching, and the police put down their batons and their shields and started marching with them against the tyranny, is what they're calling it, of the government. Whether you conspiracy, left, right, center, who cares? Do I believe so? Going back to the social media thing, like you said, I didn't post on social media. I didn't post anything about the vaccine at all on any of my social media platforms because I don't care, right? I got it. I didn't get it for anybody else but me. But I do keep my vaccine card in my car because I see it coming to America that way, where, as you know, we were talking about it earlier, that I'm going to be driving down the road and some state he's going to pull me over and be like, hey, do you have your vaccine card? You left your state and came into mine. And that scares the shit out of me because so I leave that in my car to be like, yeah, it's right here. Thanks. Okay, cool. License, registration, vaccine card is what I see coming down the pipe. And it's kind of nerve wracking. And you see it in France. They're throwing people in jail for going into bar, just walking in a bar without a mask, and you're getting thrown in jail. And, shutting down, even to when the point where we had all the lockdowns in America and they were shutting down businesses for not following COVID protocol by like 3 people, and they were shutting them down and giving a couple $1,000 a day fines. And I'm like, people are losing their livelihood over a pandemic that nobody could have really fixed, even though I have my own thought process on the other side, and we can get into that later in the conversation. But what France is doing is wrong. What they're doing is wrong, and that's the problem with most of the European countries, specifically Western European countries, and countries like UK, is like places over there. They don't have a constitution like we have. They don't have certain rights, inalienable rights that we have. That we can look at the government and be like, no, you're breaking my constitution. I can lawyer up and fix it. They don't have those rights. They'll just throw you in jail and lock you up and throw away the key, as they say, until you're done, and fine you all this extra money that you probably can't afford. And I don't see that fair. It's to the people of France or the people of wherever it happens to.
Well, that brings up kind of a good point, but we've seen it here in some. I would call them very unconstitutional. As far as shutting down companies and businesses and taking away people's livelihood and replacing them with what? With a couple stimulus checks. You know what I mean? Some boosted up unemployment. I mean, I say we get into it. We dig into that. I think it's personally, I'm all about free choice. I don't know if I'm conservative, libertarian, or how you want to put it, but if it's done in your household, then keep it in your household. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just how I feel about the world. But when you start stepping on how people make a living and how people's ability to make a living, now I will say this, there is that kind of stigma behind for the greater good, I guess you can say. But where does doing things for the greater good, and where is the evidence that, okay, people are dying? Well, tons of people die in car crashes. It doesn't, what I'm saying? Like, we don't stop people from swimming because people drowned. Like, you take a calculated risk. When you go to the grocery store, you take a calculated risk. I mean, there's mass shootings I hate to say this, but there is mass shootings in malls and places like this, but I don't see people stopping to not go to a mall because there's a possibility of there's being mass shooter. Like, so what is your take on this, and how do you feel about the possibility of people's civil rights, or do you feel that civil rights have been violated, or even constitutional rights been violated during this whole process that we've had through these lockdowns?
There's plenty of that going on. I'm grateful it didn't go as far as they threw people in jail for not wearing a mask, because that's just silly. Multiple large corporations, so they had all those incidents at Walmart's where Walmart employees were confronting people about not having a mask on, and Walmart had to step back and be like, whoa, 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 whoa. We're going to get sued. We can't do this. So we're not going to enforce them wearing a mask in our store anywhere in the world, because we can't do this. We're a multi-billion-billion-dollar corporation. We're worldwide. We cannot do this. We can't legally, even though CDC said they should do it, WHO, which I think is a farce anyways. I'm more a CDC guy if you're really going to go for stats. Whoever, wherever said do this, it's good for your safety. Yeah. Cool. We can say, hey, you need to wear a mask when you come in our store, but legally we can't enforce it, and the police are just going to tell them, okay, well, you're trespassing, you can go home now, and they're just going to leave, and now we're going to lose customer base for so on and so forth. But on the other side of it, you were talking about the civil liberties being trampled on. Well, the biggest one was like gyms, right? I'll take gyms because you're a big gym guy, so you'll understand this, right? You go to the gym to make yourself healthier, right? To make yourself in better shape, make your body in better shape, be a healthier person, correct?
Yeah.
So they were shutting down gyms wholesale because people can sweat on the machines, and I get it. And you're talking about greater good things, and I'll get into that in a second. The greater good. Remind me about the greater good thing.
Yeah. By all means, please.
So they're finding these gyms. Like one guy, they were finding like $17,000 a day for keeping his gym open, and and he's like, hey, people come here to get in better shape. Oh, by the way, in my gym, I've had 0 cases of COVID.
Yeah.
None, because they're probably coming here and sweating it out. Even if they have symptoms, they're not going to notice it. They're going to be more like an asymptomatic person because they're working out every day. And we're here to be healthy. We help them with diets and everything to be healthy. And so if healthy people are coming in to maintain being healthy, where if you're healthy and you don't, by the statistics, if you're healthy with COVID-19, you have a 99.8% survival rate and a 93.7% rate. You're never going to see a hospital. You might get a little sniffle and, a headache and a fever, and maybe you have to stay home a couple of days. But if you're going to the gym, you're creating a healthy version of yourself that's not going to be affected as hard by this virus as somebody who sits at home like me and eats fatty cakes all day and has high blood pressure, right? Like the melted ice cream Thor I got going on, and really, like, I got really sick from it, and I did because I haven't been to the gym forever, but and maybe I need to have a healthier lifestyle, but at the same time, the gym is like the last place I would have closed, or public parks, open air public parks. Making in California, if you were outside, you had to wear a mask. In California, right? If you were outside anywhere in LA, you had to wear a mask. You couldn't even outdoor dine there. They shut them all down for like months, and then, as you said, they went into handing money out, basically. Oh, we'll just give you all this money. Well, sorry, folks, we're $31 trillion in debt, and there's no way to pay past that. But that's a different conversation for another day.
Yeah. I'm not going to dig into that one.
So last thing before I send it back to you is going to be the greater good, right? And this goes back to 1937 Adolf. He took 6 million Jews and fried them in gas chambers and stuff for the greater good. And then I'll roll it into something more modern, more today's standards. So this guy named Maduro, he happens to be the dictator / whatever president you want to call of Venezuela, right? If you've seen pictures of Venezuela, they're literally piles of money line their street. They were literally eating dogs off the street, like random dogs off the street, because they're so poor right now, being the #1 oil proficient country in the world, and they don't use it. And it's for the greater good. They created a governmental system. We won't go into which type, because that's another day we could talk about that. But they created a governmental system that doesn't work for the greater good, right? So anytime anybody in history that I know of, including like Karl Marx, Stalin, Hitler, Maduro, Saddam Hussein, like they've all used the words the greater good. It hasn't worked out. It's become a failed process and a failed state. So anytime the words the greater good, it's like I'm from the government. I'm here to help you as the Delta Boys kick down your door. It scares me. Like the greater good is not. You want to talk? Somebody comes at me and says, "Oh, it's for the greater good. You get your vaccine." Well, okay, I'm already vaccinated. I did that on my own recognizance, right? Yeah. You're not. If somebody comes to you and says it's for the greater good that you get your vaccine to keep everybody else healthy, well, that's not your responsibility to do that. That's their responsibility as a grown-up to make their solid decision. So anytime the government or anybody comes at me and says the greater good, I kind of step back and go, whoa, what do you mean by the greater good for who?
Yeah.
Who's the greater good for here?
Yeah.
So, and I'll leave it at that. Send it back to you. What do you think about that? Because the greater good comment scares me.
Yeah, I don't like that term. I'm gonna be honest. I really don't like that term. I think the greater good, no matter what you do, you're alienating some sort of people or ethnicity or whatever. Just by saying that, you're kind of like, well, this is it's not a moment where you get to save a school bus full of kids or one lady. You know what I mean? You're not in that moment. That's not what's happening here. And even with the statistics that I've seen so far from this. And I'm gonna be honest, I just haven't been vaccinated because I don't care. Like I don't want to take the time to go down there to get a shot and then have to go back in a couple. I just don't care enough. I'm not in that demographic. I don't have those bad habits. I'm not obese. I don't have these certain things to where it's such a high thing to me. If I get sick, I get sick. It is what it is. But yeah, the greater good thing. Everybody in history that I have seen that has used it has manipulated in one way or another to essentially do evil. Yeah, that's how I kind of see it. There's usually an evil, proponent to it. Nefarious in the background, some villain. Is how I feel anyway. But that kind of, it brings to like a really important topic is how important is people's rights compared to the fear factor of it. Like if you were truly fearful that you were going to get COVID and everything like that, why wouldn't you just do curbside pickup? And then by then, how do you know that person that bagged your groceries or whatever doesn't have COVID? Or didn't spread COVID to something? Do we have a research papers how long it lasts on cardboard and plastics and stuff like this? And then do you have to have a special refrigerator where you quarantine your food before you even get to eat it? Like, is that going to be a protocol?
Yeah. I think that's overstep. I find that to be overstep. So the statistics on that, like it's on a table. They said it's on a table for like 6 minutes or whatever. It can last up to 3 hours. Well, is it 6 minutes or 3 hours? That's a big gap. That's a lot of minutes in between there. How long it can last on a surface. I don't know. My Lysol kills 99.9% of germs.
Yeah, do you Lysol everything?
Lysol my face, or you have a valid point there. You have a very valid point as who's to say the guy? So funny story and it kind of goes along with that idea of contracting it. So as last year I went around the entire country. I went to Montana, I went to Washington, I went to Colorado, I went to Oklahoma. I came and saw you in Mississippi. I went to Georgia, Tennessee. The only place in the country I had to wear a mask anywhere inside was Tennessee. In Colorado, I didn't really get out and about. I wasn't there. I was only there for a couple days. But Oklahoma, Georgia, Mississippi, I was in Montana for 3 weeks, and they didn't have any legit mandate where I had to go and I didn't have to wear a mask anywhere. Sometimes they'd ask you go in like Murdoch's out there. It's kind of like a Trader Joe's, but better. Kind of. But you go in there and they'd be like, hey, can you wear a mask? So we wore bandanas. Like we literally had bandanas, not a real mask. And they were like, okay, it's over your face. I didn't get COVID until I got for the second time. The first time I got it very at the beginning. I was here in Massachusetts when it really spiked. I'm kind of I'm in a rural but close to an urban area, so a lot of people. I'm in a very touristy town, beach town. People come down from Boston to go to the beach. I'm where the Pilgrims are from, if anybody's wondering. So the Mayflower's back. Come here in like October. But anyways, off subject. I didn't get it until I came back 3 months after I came back to Massachusetts, and I had to put a mask back on in a state where I had to go everywhere with masks, everywhere. Really? No matter where you only open air 6 feet apart. You don't have to wear it in Mass. Well, now it's all gone, but at the time, if you're in a park, you didn't have to wear it. But as soon as you go into Walmart, the gas station, anywhere, you had to wear it, right? And I got it for the second time, positive test, 3 months after I came back, and it wasn't the incubation period for me on my trip to when I came back was over. So I got it somewhere in Massachusetts while wearing a mask everywhere I went. And that debunks their entire theory on masks or on the infectious rate of this disease while wearing a mask going down, where I went around the whole country and didn't wear a mask. Saw thousands of people without wearing a mask. And then I come home and I contracted it. It's insane to me. And that's why I don't, put the little tidbit in there. I'm a libertarian, so I don't trust my government at all. I worked for them for 11 years and I don't like them. And that's next podcast, people. Next podcast, we'll do that. We'll talk about the corruption in U.S. government. That's a good topic.
Yeah, we'll definitely get on that one. I agree with you. And I think the major takeaway from this is that, it's a fear. There's a huge fear out there. And I understand people fear what they don't understand. All right. And I get it. I'll be honest. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Biden, and I wasn't really a huge fan of Trump, to be honest. I thought Trump was very liberal for being a conservative, which whatever, we'll go into politics later. But, they smashed him for shutting stuff down in the beginning. And then they smashed him again for not shutting stuff down even more when people even got scared of the whole, issue, the virus coming. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And I thought that was a little unfair on his part. But now, looking back in retrospect, it's like they did so much damage. The government has done so much damage to people and their lives and our economy now. I mean, you have people that are refusing to work, and you got people saying, screw it, they're not going back to work, regardless if you cut the unemployment or you don't. Here's my thing is how do you feel about people, lower income wage people, receiving more money in unemployment than actually, they would make on their own? How do you feel about that?
Well, I see that smile. So, and this is a good transition in this topic, a little segue. So I'm just going to lay it out on here. I'm a 100% retired combat veteran. So I receive quite a bit of money from federal government for the rest of my life. But at the same time, most people tell me, and sometimes I feel a little bit guilty about it for myself. And now, before I say this, I've never collected unemployment in my life. Not a single dollar of unemployment. Even when I was hurting and I was so broke, they repossessed my car during the pandemic because I couldn't work because I was working towards my rating of retirement from the U.S. government. And I was barely making enough money to even put food on the table for my kids. I didn't collect unemployment. Now, do I collect my Social Security, SSDI, and my VA benefits? Absolutely, I do. But on the other side of that, I earned that. I went to war 4 times, as you know. You went to combat with me for 2 of them. We were there, so we were together. So, I went to war. I got fucked up. I did a bunch of crazy shit, and that's part of it. I earned my pension, if you will. We'll call it my pension. I call it my pension, right? Yeah. People who are able-bodied to work, like these 22-year-olds that are making, 3 times as much money as they'd make it work or whatever, or if they worked overtime, they'd be able to make it, but that just refuse to go to work and earn their pay because they've been getting all this unemployment money. It needs to stop, because where's the money coming from? The rest of the people who are working. And now they're talking about raising. So for instance, in Massachusetts, to compensate for the unemployment lost over the last 18 months, they're going to raise everybody's taxes to 80%. Not just the rich. Don't get it wrong, people. They're lying to you. That's why.
Wait, where was this at? This is the first time I'm hearing this.
So our Senate, 33-2, because we only have 35 members on our Senate, right, in our House. 33-2 just passed the bill to raise everybody's taxes up to 80% more than they already pay.
What is this? Is it income tax they're taxing, or is it like property or
everything?
Wait,
this 80%. So we already have 6.25% sales tax. We have, for instance, my mother has a half acre with 950 square foot, 2 bedrooms. She pays $5,800 a year in property tax for it. They're raising it all. Property tax, sales tax. They're going to put more money on your excise tax. So you have to pay a tax in Massachusetts for parking your car. Income tax, the whole nine, the whole gambit. They're raising all the taxes. They're going to raise roadway tax. We have all kinds of taxes that most people haven't heard of in other states. So for instance, my tax, so on my Harley, I had to just pay my excise tax. I think it was $38 because my valuation on my Harley from the state where it sits, taxable per year, is like $1,700. Even though my Harley's worth more, that's what they evaluated it, right? So now that'll probably jump to about $75 next year, right? It'll probably double or triple itself almost.
You got to pay it every year.
Every year. So, and then your income tax. So your income tax here, when I was being taxed at a low rate, claiming 4, which I could claim a 9, but I claim a 4 head of household because I'm a single dad of 2 kids. My income tax was 17.9% of my income at the lowest rate. If you claim single in Massachusetts, I got a buddy. If you make over $100,000 a year, which he does, I won't tell you where he works, but he has a good job. And you claim single, no kids, he's paying 38.4% income tax. $38,000 of his $100,000 goes to the state and federal government, because we don't just have federal income tax, we have state income tax. So they're raising. So the federal won't change, but our state income tax is going to skyrocket.
But I mean, let's be clear. I mean, if anybody lives on the East
it's
Coast,
all for them. They're all
that's
saying,
not a lot of money.
We got to make up all this money we lost in the pandemic. Well, that wasn't the people's fault, and we'll get in that. I mean, we're talking about vaccines, and I guess we could get a little. I'd say that's the Wuhan China lab's fault, but that's my opinion. But we won't get quite into that.
I see where you're going with this.
But we could do that all in the conspiracy theory part of that on another episode. But as you're saying, so this unemployment thing has more adverse effects than people realize, and it varies state to state, I know. But even the federal government is talking right now about raising more taxes to make up the gap of the unemployment. Take all these people who there's so many. I know 4 guys on Facebook with small businesses who are offering jobs right now. Good paying jobs, like I'm talking $25 an hour to work at Napa, $25 an hour to go be a car delivery guy in Massachusetts, because it cost of living's higher out here. But and that's because of the taxes, a lot of it. But instead of raising people's taxes to make up for money you just dished out, the $6 trillion you just dished out and haven't used half of it, even it's just sitting there in a bank somewhere. You got to find a way to better allocate our funds. Better budgeting rather than. Because if the money's not in the pot, you can't. It's like having no cookies left in the cookie jar. The kids can't get at them, right? You can't just keep pulling money out of the fucking pot and say, oh well, we'll raise your taxes to make up for it. Because now you're not just going to have. It's literally, but it's a whole different day. But because of the unemployment, the people, the 50, 60 million people on unemployment in this country right now, 48 million of them can work. Right, can physically go and get a job, and a lot of them are really good paying jobs right now, especially with a lot of them going up above $15 an hour to start. the kid just out of high school who's now collecting unemployment because he got laid off from McDonald's. Well, now he can go back to McDonald's and make $15 an hour again. If I didn't make, I made $4.80 when I was 18 years old. So $15 an hour is pretty stellar.
I have a daughter right now, that makes $13 an hour working at McDonald's in high school. So that's pretty good. That's actually pretty damn good. She has no bills really, so I mean, it's pretty good.
Maybe a cell phone and car insurance.
Come on, somebody else pays for that. You know what I mean? So,
I know who pays for that. The bearded dragon.
Yeah. So, when you look at it, it's not a bad gig. I mean, crap, man. I remember when I worked at fast food when I was her age, and $5.25, $4.25, something like that. So, yeah, maybe my age is shown.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, he's the old man in the room.
Yeah, yeah, Roger.
By about 72 hours.
Yeah. So I mean, how do you? This would be my question, right? Because everybody can complain about stuff. Everybody can go through. We could rip the government apart. How would you consider fixing this issue? Like if you now, obviously we have hindsight. Yeah, not so much unemployment, but knowing what we know now, approaching the vaccine subject, and let's say you did have the shutdown. How would you approach a shutdown now that we have the hindsight? And then if not, how will we go forward from this?
If we had to do a shutdown again on top of the one we had, or just it started over at the original?
Yeah, just I'd say let's using hindsight probably isn't going to work for us. Let's take it from today. Like, how could we fix this right now that the government's not doing properly?
Fire them all and put a new government in there.
Listen, I'm with you. I'm
a true 5-party system, not this 2-party or really 1 party. They just play partisan on one side to mess with the other, and then they go drink beers after work. I don't know, but no. As for the pandemic and as for the virus and how it all has come to fruition, you got to go back, and this is where federal government overstep might be okay. They can't shut everybody down. They need to keep people working. Like as of right now, as of this moment forward, if they don't require unemployment due to a disability or some reason they cannot work, like they broke their back or whatever, I know that's extreme, but they cannot go to work, take their unemployment and be like, hey, if you don't go back into work in the 3 months and start so on and so forth, we're going to make you back pay us all that unemployment. We're going to charge you that money, and if you don't pay it, we're going to put in collections. You have to. I'm sorry to say, but there has to be a point where and maybe there has to be an incentive to send them back to work. Like, hey, okay, the boss calls you and says, hey, I need you to come back. Well, no, I'm getting this unemployment, and I saw this personally when it first started, and I've talked to my old boss that I used to work for, and he has guys he had a guy that was collecting unemployment while he was working, and then he's like, well, I'm making more on unemployment, I'm not working here anymore. And he was like, so he gave him an incentive and was like, okay, well, I'll give you $5 more an hour to come back to work for me. And he was like, no. And I was like, whoa, what? I was like, $5 more an hour? That's big money, especially at the landscaping company that I worked at. He had to work. I mean, I worked tons of overtime. I made good money there. But I worked a lot of overtime, a lot. I mean, I worked like 80 hours a week when I was there, but I was one of the foremen, so I had to. But I got paid hourly, so I did pretty well there. But even guys that are, for instance, that Napa job, nobody will come get a job. Nobody will come back to work, and it's like, okay, well, it's time for Big Brother to cut the leaky leg off. You know what I'm saying? It's time to cauterize the wound and say, no, you're not getting unemployment anymore, and it's going to make people go back to work, or they're going to lose everything. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And that leads into everything else that's going on in inflation in housing, inflation in goods, gas prices going up, blah, 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 if you can't afford to live because you're not making the money that you need to, for instance, if tomorrow they cut off my VA benefits and they cut off my what I get for my pension, if they said no, you can't get it anymore, I guess I'm going back to work because I got to feed my family. You know, I guess I would have to turn around and be like, well, you've disqualified me for whatever, or you're not giving it to me anymore. I got to go back and make money to feed my kids, right? But and that come and we'll talk. Maybe we'll have to work on another episode for it. But that comes back to the entitlement factor. Is, you know, I hate being entitled to something. Some days I hate it. Some days I wish I could just go back to the Army. I can't. But they won't let me. They told me no. But and did I enjoy working? Yes, but I couldn't physically do it anymore. I have specific handicaps that I can't do it anymore. But but the problem is we're going to keep receding into not being able to pay for things as a country if people just keep getting free handouts. You know what I'm saying? And in my opinion, the 19-year-old kid who just got out of high school and is working at McDonald's, sorry, kid, you haven't done anything with your life yet. You haven't contributed anything to society, so it's time to step up to the plate like our parents did, and you did, and we did. Step up to the plate and do something for this, you know, do something for the country. You know what I'm saying?
Well, let's touch on a subject because, you know, I could see, you know, it bothered you a little bit, you know, and I hate to kind of do this because we're on a podcast and, you know, obviously people will be able to see us on this and stuff like that. But, you know, I could just hear in your voice that, you know, as far as being, you know, retired out of the military or your pension, as you referred to it and stuff like that, you know, having to go through the VA, you know, somewhat hits the pride, you know, and I went through it too, you know, when I got retired out of the military, I was like, holy hell, this is all I've ever known my whole life. You know what I mean? Like, I'm good at what I do, and, you know, it really hurt my manhood, I guess, initially. But, you know, we made a bargain with the United States government and the people of the United States. You know, we made a bargain. We signed on the dotted line. We volunteered, but we volunteered for a purpose. You know, whatever that purpose is, you know, patriotic, or maybe you just want a free college or whatever it is, whatever somebody out there listening
too much Call of Duty.
Yeah, too much Call of Duty. Whatever the reason why you joined, okay, you made an agreement with United States and said, listen, I'm willing to sacrifice my life. All right. I'm willing to sacrifice my body, my mind, and everything else for you guys, but you need to take care of me at the end. You know, and that was the agreement. That was the agreement. It's on there. That's why they have all these VA programs and everything else. That is the agreement. You know, and I mean, we could make a whole different topic out of this, but I would never feel bad for that. And it took me a while, I guess, to get in that kind of place mentally about it, that I'll never be, you know, that super soldier, so to speak, ever again. Is that, you know, I signed a dotted line. We made a contract together that I'm willing to sacrifice my life. But if I make it through this, you guys owe me. You know, so I don't feel bad at all. I truly don't anymore. And I wouldn't either, brother. I truly wouldn't feel bad because, you know, people weren't signing up. You know what I mean? We all know the guy, oh, I almost signed up. Well, but you didn't. Okay. You didn't go to war for your country. You didn't do whatever. So, you know, I wouldn't feel bad at all, bro.
Yeah, I mean, it took me recently. I feel fine about it. I'm like, yeah, I'm retired at 35 and I can smile, you know, go ride my Harley when I have time. And, you know, as you know, I'm a full-time dad. So, you know, I do have a job. I literally 24 hours a day take care of my children.
Yeah, absolutely.
But at the same time, you know, it's not, yeah, it hits the pride. I'll give you that. It hits the pride, but it's more of a, as you said, it was the only thing I ever knew, and I was really good at warfare. I'm a really good soldier, and I was really good at doing what I did. And when they took it away, I had nothing else. I went through 8 jobs in 2 years or something like that. And I went to school, like, I'm an auto diesel industrial Nissan master tech. Like, I can fix any vehicle with wheels, chains, anything you can think of, I can fix it. And I'm really good at that too. I also, you know, I have a mechanical engineering degree, so I can design it, then 3D print it in a small model, then build the whole thing out of steel that I made with a welder, like all the way from point A to point B. You know, and then and I worked in that industry for about the past, up until last year when I retired, for like almost 6 years, almost six total years. I worked and fixed everything from, JCBs to Nissans to lawnmowers to Bobcats to whatever. I fixed it all, hydraulics, the whole nine. And then I couldn't figure out that, so I worked at T-Mobile, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, I worked at a bunch of different spots, and I just couldn't find my place. But it's hard because I know the only place I ever wanted since I was a kid was to be in the Army. They used to call me G.I. Joe, for God's sakes. When I was a kid, literally, I was the kid running around the neighborhood in all camouflage BDUs, like I was, like I was Sergeant Slaughter, and I got to do that. I got to become Sergeant Slaughter. Like I was really good in the Army. And when they took that away and they literally told me, you can't do this anymore. You physically cannot do this anymore. It kind of broke me for a while. Beyond the fact of the warfare part that messes you up. And I couldn't find my place. And now I kind of have, being a dad. So I'm kind of okay with it. But at the same time, I guess it's pride. It's half pride to me, knowing that sometimes I feel like I'm not contributing, and the other side of me that wants to go back to the Army. And I was talking about it last night. It's like, if the CIA called me tomorrow and said, "Hey, we need you to do some wet work," I'd be on it. I'd be like, you guys give me a babysitter for a month? Like, what do you need? Where am I going? Yemen? Sounds cool. Yeah. But it was kind of a joke, but at the same time, in the back of my mind, like, if I could physically do it, if they had a way to repair parts of my body that are broken, I'd go on that. I'd get on that plane in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
A lot of it not just because of me and my ego, it's because of the guys that are going over there, these brand new kids. And this will be a subject for another day, but the military becoming soft. And that we should do a whole subject on that. I think that would be a good subject, but in that I'm good at it. And the guy from, I know a lot, you've seen Black Hawk Down. I've seen Black Hawk Down. The guy Hoot said it. Well, Hoot, what are you, just some kind of war junkie? And I won't say anything because they won't understand. Right.
Yeah.
They just won't get it. And that's the thing, is that's the only job I was ever good at, I guess. And I have a resentment to myself for not being better at it and staying longer, but I didn't have a choice. And it's a catch-22. It pulls at you from both sides.
Yeah.
And that's why I'll leave that. So.
Yeah, I agree. But I think war is addictive. I don't think many people understand it. There's an adrenaline to it. There's a brotherhood to it. And I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, you fought for your country. Thank you." I'm like, you don't have to thank me. Pay your taxes so I get my retirement. You know what I mean? that's what I tell people all the time. Yeah. Like, just pay your taxes so I get my retirement.
Thank you by paying your taxes, yeah?
Yeah. That's thanking me enough. But when I was there, I never thought once, like, "Oh, man, I'm doing this for my country." Like, no, I'm doing it because the guy next to me could die if I jack up. You know what I mean? And I remember being a private, and, my NCOs taking really good care of me. And then, when I became an NCO, I just wanted to take care of my soldiers. My biggest fear was losing a soldier. And I thank God today, I've had buddies that have lost soldiers. I've lost many friends there. But I have not personally lost a soldier under my command. And I am so grateful for that, because I think, like, the burden of that, if that fell on me, would kill me to this day. And I know a lot haunts me, but I was so grateful for that. But that's all I wanted to be, was take care of my guys and, do the best we possibly could to make sure everybody got home.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm kind of the same way. I lost a lot of friends that were linear, on the NCO level, as NCOs, or even when I was in E4, and a lot of my friends were E5s, we were kind of in the same, we had been in forever together. So, specifically, John Castro. John Castro was really, really hard on me. So in linear, I lost a lot of friends, but luckily I never lost any of my direct soldiers that I was in charge of, because I feel that I taught them right. I taught them how to, they say the mark of a good soldier is you don't die, because you're better at your job than the bad guy is. So luckily I trained them right, and we worked as a team, and we worked as brothers, and we watched each other's back. And at the end of the day, that I'm grateful that I got to bring everybody I did home. but I'm saddened that I didn't get to bring everybody home.
Yeah, I heard that.
So
now,
that's the hard part.
Now I got to let everybody else know that that's out there, because I know, some people are going to listen to this and be like, well, I did lose a soldier or whatever. And I need you guys, if you're listening to this, that this isn't a mark against you. Trust me, because there are things that happen in combat that are out of your control. You can only mitigate risk to a certain extent. And if you're listening to this and you have a heavy heart because you've lost a soldier, I need you to understand that our hearts go out to you. All right. And that it's not the end of the world.
100%.
And that, I can only imagine what you're going through. But I don't want you to think ill of yourself because you did lose a soldier or something like that happened. And I need to make that clear, because I know if I heard this on a podcast or something like that and I lost a soldier, I wouldn't be having a good day. All right. I might be, putting a gun in my mouth kind of deal, because I'd be like, holy shit, man, you're absolutely right. That's like a failure thing. But I need you guys to understand that it's not, things happen. Things get out of control fast in combat. We all know this. And I need you guys to understand that just because you lost a soldier doesn't make you less of a person or less of a leader, So.
Yeah, I think from that point with you, we just got lucky that we didn't lose any of our direct subordinates. But and it's not just losing a direct subordinate; it's losing any soldier that's around you, especially in your platoon, your company, the guys you're really, really tight with, the guys they're your brothers. So whether it's Private Joe Blow or Sergeant Stackhouse or whoever over here, your friends are they're your brothers. They're your family. You live with them. So and I'll caveat even further to what Joe said. Like, if you feel guilty about that, or because I felt guilty for a long time for John, and I felt it. I took it as if it was my fault, and it wasn't. It's just, as he said, shit that happens. Something went wrong. The best laid plans could go wrong. That's why we have a pace plan for everything we do in the Army. We always have an alternate contingency, an emergency, and oh shit, shoot a flare. Like, Death Blossom. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But we, I had a real hard time for a long time after John's death, and reach out to somebody, talk to somebody you trust, just reach out to somebody. And, I guess we could end it with this, but, and I'll get your take after, and then we'll end this thing. But, I'm in a motorcycle organization called Combat Vets Association. We have lots of members, all combat veterans, and we kind of rely on each other. I could call any of those guys. I'm having a rough day. I call them and they're like, "Hey man, come have lunch." So you guys, I know most of us say, we get spread to the 12 wins, but call a brother and talk to him for 3 hours. Like, Joe's my brother. I've known Joe a very, very long time. We've done a lot together, and he knows everything about me. I know everything about him for the most part. Yeah. And if I'm having a really rough day, like, somebody recently died, we won't get into it, but I had a really rough time with it. And I literally just called him and bawled my eyes out on the phone and expressed how I was feeling. And he just sat there and listened. And if you just call somebody and have them listen, because, 22 a day is too many.
That's true. It's
a fact. That is true. We don't want this anymore. So I'll leave it at that for the end of my sermon for this whole thing, because we're coming up on the hour mark here, and I'll let Joe close us out because he has the prettier voice.
Thank you so much. So we talked about a lot today. Just recap a little bit what we talked today on this podcast. We went everything from vaccines into taxes and civil rights, and we went into constitutional rights and kind of foreign topics about the vaccine as well. And then we got a little dark. We started going to the kind of like the VA side of the house, and pensions, losing brothers, combat experiences, possible addiction to war. That's huge. A lot of things that go unnoticed. So we did a lot of jumping on some topics. We could try to stay on course here, but here at Dirty Dads, sometimes things get a little out of control. You just kind of flow with the conversation and see what happens. So what I would like you guys to do, if you can, Give us a thumbs up, subscribe. If you disagree with any points of view, listen, we are not communists. We're not here to tell you that our opinions are absolutely right. And half the time, to be totally honest, I can only speak for myself, but I'm an idiot. Okay? I'm an educated idiot, but I'm an idiot. All right? And sometimes I'm wrong. You know, a lot of us are wrong. So if you disagree with us, go in the comments, light us up. Who cares? You know, what are we going to do? Hurt my feelings? I'll cry. I'll go to sleep and I'll cry. And I'm sure Joe will too. Yeah, you're going to cry.
I'm crying already on the inside.
Yeah. It's all good. All right. So listen, we love you guys. For our veteran community, we love you guys too. And until the next podcast, Dirty Dad's out.
Stay frosty.
Yeah.